Okay, go ahead and admit it. You've already said, why is a kids pastor talking to us? And I'm old enough to think you're kids, so it's all right. About 30 years ago, when I was at Tech, David Rowland was our BSU guy there. So I've known him for a long time, and my friends who are here today. And I just want to encourage you with a great parable from the Bible. And when I start to read it, you're like, dude, I heard that like a million times in Sunday school. I know it and everything. But I've been studying, listening to pastor outside my Baptist tribe, Tim Keller, and he wrote a great book on the story that we call the prodigal son, and he actually entitled the book The Prodigal God, and it's great, and it gave me some insight and helped me even change some attitudes in my own heart about what it means to be lost and what it means to be a believer and what the gospel is telling me to do and what there is to do about it. So if you've got your Bible, I encourage you to find Luke chapter 15, and we're going to read a little bit of this chapter together, and then we'll study it as we go. Luke chapter 15 starts out in verse 1 saying, all the tax collectors and sinners were approaching to listen to him. And the Pharisees and the scribes were complaining, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. By the way, I'm going with Larry Arrington to lunch today, so we're going to play this out. And also, we'll be going to lunch and everything, so I'll be eating with this. One guy laughed, and it's Larry. All right, so skip down to verse 11, the parable of the lost son, the parable of the prodigal. But this story says there was a man who had two sons. This is a story of two sons. The younger of them, by the way, I'm the youngest in my family. Am I here the younger? All right. You already skipped ahead if you've never read the story to find out what happens to you if you're the younger brother, because we're that conceited about ourselves. I get it. I'm the younger one. All right. I get it. I know. The younger of them said to his father, give me the share of the estate I have coming to me. So he distributed the assets to them. Not many days later, the young son gathered together all he had and traveled to a distant country where he squandered his estate in foolish living. After he had spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he had nothing. Then he went to work for one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. And he longed to eat his fill from the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one would give him anything. I guess not even the pigs. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food, and here I am dying of hunger? I'll get up, go to my father, and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired workers. So he got up and he went to his father. But while the son was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. And he ran, threw his arms around his neck, and kissed him. And the son said, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father told his servants, quick, bring out the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and bring the fatted calf. This is my favorite verse right here because it's brisket, right? Bring the fatted calf and slaughter it, and let's celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. How many brothers in this story? Two. The other brother, the older son. My brother Steve, by the way, this is him. No, the older son was in the field. As he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. Oh, I said the D word in a Baptist thing, dancing. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I'll keep going. He heard music and dancing. So he summoned one of the servants, questioning what these things meant. Your brother is here, he told him, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound. And then the older brother became angry because he did not want to go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. But he replied to his father, look, I've been slaving away many years for you. I have never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me even a goat so that I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your assets with prostitutes, you slaughtered the fatted calf for him. Son, he said to him, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and is now alive again. He was lost, and he is found. How many of you have ever been lost? I mean, like lost in a grocery store, or you're like at Walmart, and all of a sudden mom's not there. In 1983, I got to go to Disney World when I was 12 years old. Epcot had not been open. I was ready to be infotained. I was such a nerd. I wanted to go see all the sciencey stuff at Epcot. But we were in the Magic Kingdom, and I had a goal in the Magic Kingdom is to get me a coonskin hat. Right, I wanted one and all this kind of stuff, and my dad's like, I'm not paying for that. It's not even real. But I wanted to go. We were at Disney World. We were as a family. We're going through the Magic Kingdom. It is July. It is hot. It is 1983. We don't have cell phones. We barely have, telegraphs back in those days, right? We chisel a note on a stone and we'd hand it to somebody else in those days. It was a long time ago. We were walking through the Magic Kingdom. We walked under the tunnel through the castle. And as we get on the other side, there's little merchants and shops and everything. And I see one, the hat. And as my family and the other family that went with us as we're going through, I turned to look at the hats. And there was a space hat too, which became infinitely cooler than the coonskin hat. But I went from Davy Crockett to Spaceman, just like Toy Story, right? Cowboy gone, space cool. I'm there, and I go to look at it, and then I turn. And all of a sudden, I don't know a face. I'm kind of short. I don't know a midriff. I don't know anybody around me. I was lost. And there is no more awful feeling than not knowing who you're with, where you are, and where your help's going to come from. We look at this story today. Jesus is telling us a story about what it means to be lost. Okay? This story is actually a trilogy. And if you're like me, good literature is in trilogies, like Star Wars. There's only one real Star Wars trilogy, and it's the originals in the 70s. Don't give me any grief about the rest, the prequels or the sequels. It's the original trilogy. I saw the original Star Wars in the theater in 77, so I know, right? So that trilogy, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, great trilogy. The Lord of the Rings is a good trilogy. I hope one day they make a great Hobbit movie. I would love for that to happen. We watched Avengers, and you had the Avengers, and then you had Endgame and all that kind of stuff. The trilogy of those movies and everything, those great stories written in threes, and this story is written in three. I just skipped over two, and let me give you a quick review of those. If you look back just a moment before, and Jesus is telling this story, he's telling it to tax collectors, he's telling it to Pharisees who were complaining. And he told parable number one, Star Wars, A New Hope, right here. What man among you who would have 100 sheep and loses one doesn't leave the 99 to go find them until it is found? And when he brings it back, Jesus says, there's a big celebration because what was lost was found. All right? And then he tells another story. He tells a story about a lady in verse 8 who has 10 silver coins, and she loses one. It's like she has $20. And with $20, you can buy like a year's worth of ramen. You can go to Moe's and eat like a king. You can go to Taco Bell and kill it for a week, right, with $20. But imagine if you had a 20 and you lost it in your dorm or wherever you are, you would tear that place apart, and that's what she does. And then when she finds it, she calls her friends together and neighbors saying, rejoice with me because I have found the silver coin I lost. You would even give your friend some ramen, man. It was great because you're excited that something was lost was found. So that's the setup until you get to this parable, the Return of the Jedi. Okay? And when you get here, Jesus says, let me change this a little bit. A man had 2 sons. And it says there that this rebel, the younger brother, the rebel, and we love that story. This guy goes off, Desperado, that's the song from the 70s. A guy goes off and he squanders his father's wealth. And let me talk to you about that for a second. He asked his dad for his property, his portion. As the younger son, he would get a third. The older son would get 2/3. And that doesn't seem fair, but that's the way it was. But here's the deal. The wealth of people back in those days was in the land that they owned. And this father, to give this son's request, had to sell some of their ancestral land for it to be done. When Jesus made this statement to his listeners, this was shock theater right here. Because the son said, Dad, I wish you were dead. Give me my stuff. That's exactly what he said. And for those listening, they're like, dude, let me go to the next TikTok on this. I need to find out what he's talking about, right? Because this is just part one. By the way, I have 7,000 followers on TikTok with my Lego videos. Thank you very much. Anyway, so he's swiping up to the next. What's going on with this guy? And so they're like, what father should have done was slap that kid and kicked him out of the house, but the father gave it to him. He says, I am not going to hold you under some kind of compulsion. I'm going to let you have it. And he let him have his request and sent him on his way. Not with good wishes, but he said, I'm not going to force you, son. And so the son went, and as younger sons do, we're always calling dad because we need cash because we spent it all on, we decided to go an up level to those cup of soups instead of the ramen, and we're out of money, but he has foolishly squandered his cash. And so he's there, and he finally comes to his senses as he's about to eat the food of pigs. And by the way, this is getting worse and worse. Not only did the dad not alienate his son, he gave in to him. He didn't kick him out of the house. He sent him on his way. This guy went and ate with unclean pigs and decided their food was good for him. That is the lowest of the low. That's number 3 on the TikTok thing. You're there, part 3, part 4, whatever it is. This is getting worse and worse, this story. This will be disgusting to his listeners at where this son had gotten to. And then the son there, he begins to think, and the Bible says, Jesus said, he comes to his senses. And then he comes up with the pre-planned, pre-packaged apology for dad. He starts running over it in his head. He starts saying, this is what I'm going to say. This is exactly what I got, Dad, you're cool, and I'm not cool. And the whole thing is laid out. He's practicing that practice speech in his head, and he's ready to go home. And he doesn't want to be a son again. He wants to be a hired servant. He wants to be somebody who lives in town and apprentices and comes back to his father's house to work. He doesn't even feel he deserves to be on the land anymore. But when the father sees him, this father does something that no father in that day probably would have done. He runs. Now I'm 50 years old. I got a 16-year-old son. I don't run, all right? There's just obvious. I'm not going to. But this father ran. And he runs to his son, and he runs out to him, and he embraces him. Before the son can start the preamble and the speech, and he starts it, and the dad's like, hey, I got it, you're good, bring the stuff. And he brings his robe, his own robe, the robe of the family, and puts on his son. The ring, the sandals of the father, he puts on him and brings him home in honor. And they celebrate. A lot of us, it's easy to fit that younger son narrative into the way we view people in the world today. Because we love to focus on the lostness of this world and all that kind of stuff. And that's the narrative we love to take out of this. And we look at this father who shows us amazing love, and yes, that's great. But here's the deal. The other brother is really the focus of the passage. I was in Disney, and I had turned to my own path. I had turned away from the instructions, do not leave us, stay with us. And something shiny caught my eye, and I turned, and I was lost. It was my own thing. So many in the world, and it's easy for us in church and religious institutions to point our fingers and look at how lost they are, the decisions they're made. They're trying to do with the world and life their own way. They want the goodies, but they don't want anything else. They don't want the Father. They don't want anything to do with Him. They just want the stuff. It's easy for us to point our fingers at them. And yes, it is true. Jesus doesn't back away from that. He says that living was foolishness. But He said there's a Father who will welcome you home. And He was talking to the tax collectors, the younger brothers, and He said, come home. Let me redefine what it means to be a dad and a father and who God is and what the gospel is. He says the gospel is saying, come home. But then the older brother enters the scene. And this is the one that I'm just talking to me today. And if the Word of God talks to you today, then let it. But the older brother, he hears the party and the commotion. He hears what's going on, and he asks one of the servants, what is going on in the house? And the servant is like, your brother, he's home. He was dead. He's alive. And the older brother wouldn't go in. You see, this older brother was a very religious person. He had, as he even said, Father, I've never done anything against what you've said. He says, I've done a lot of good things in my life. You never even barbecued a goat, much less the calf for me. Let me talk to you a second about what it means to have good actions and poor motives. What did the son, the younger son, want from his father? He wanted the goodies on his terms. Do you know what the son standing outside the father's house, the elder son, wants? He wants the goodies on his terms. The sin is the same. There are people in this world who are like, I will do my own thing and try to figure God out on my own. Those are the younger brothers. There are those who say, you know what, I got this God thing figured out. If I just put all the faith cookies and do all the things and serve God, then I'm going to get the goodies. I'm going to have that life where my bank account is full, and when I want a Lego set, I can get it. All right? When I put a TikTok up, I'm going to get 1,000 views or 2,000 or 4,000 views, whatever. I'm never going to get sick because I trust God. I'm never going to have someone die because I trust God. That is the lie you may have been told in church as you grow up, and it is a lie. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you are putting faith quarters into God and thinking you're doing good to manipulate God to give you what you want, you might as well just go eat with the pigs. Because this son is trying to manipulate the father to get the goodies with wrong behavior. And this son is trying to get the goodies from God with the right behavior. The problem is neither son, hear this, neither son loves the Father. That's why we serve Him. That's why we follow Him. Not to get the goods, but to get the Father. I was standing there on that bench. I was told, this is what you do. If you're lost, this is how you get found. You stand on a bench, or you find an employee. And I was shy, and I couldn't tell. I was like, I'm lost. And they couldn't hear me. So I stood up on a bench. That's what I'm supposed to do. And when I stand up on a bench and wave my arms, my dad is supposed to show up and grab me. And, you know, it's the Hallmark movie music comes on, and we're good. But it didn't work that way. Look at what the son said. He said to his father, who he would not go in to see his dad. And note the dad's response. When the younger son came home, what did the dad do? He left the house to go see him, right? What happened when the older son wouldn't go in? The father left the house to go out to see him. And pleaded with him to come in. And you want to talk about an insult? He said, Dad, I have slaved in your house. I have worked my fingers to the bone. I've never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me anything. He had his dad. But he was playing that churchy game of, I want what I want it from God, I'm going to do what I can to get it. That's not grace. That's works. That's the law. Our relationship with God is not based on us, it's based on Him. But when that doesn't seem to work for us, we can start blaming God. And you guys are college students, and I've been where you are, a young believer sitting in this seat. Life will go up, life will go down. And just because life is going down doesn't mean God doesn't care for you. And that God is not walking through it with you. Sometimes when we view difficulties and when things get hard, we start to go, well, I've done everything God has asked and He doesn't care. We are not promised that in here. 23 years ago, my mom died. Today. I'm not doing that to manipulate you. Please don't hear that. 10 years ago, we lost a kid. Pregnancy. Same day. No good, awful, very bad day. Right? Does that mean God wasn't paying attention? Was I tempted to say, okay, God, I've served you for years and years in the church, and you're not fulfilling your part of the bargain. You're out. I'm not coming in. Yes, that temptation is great. In fact, that sin may be deeper and harder to deal with than just going and laying with the pigs. Because everybody knows that's bad. But this son looked good, but his motivations were rotten. Because he wanted the goat. He wanted the stuff. And how did the father treat him? Not harshly, because it was embarrassing for this father to leave a party to go out and find his son who was having a hissy fit in the yard to come out and talk to him. But he did. He went out and he talked to him and he said, son, Pharisees who were listening, religious people who were listening, your son, your brother was lost and he was found. It's interesting. The elder brother that the younger brother needed was not this one. The elder brother that younger brother needed was the son who would leave the 99 to find the one. Parable number 1. The elder brother that the younger brother needed was the one that would clean the house and look for the value. Parable number 2. And that brother is Jesus. Jesus is telling them, and he's redefining what the relationship with a good father is and what salvation is and what the gospel is that no matter where you are, what you've done, the nature of your heart, even the sin of your goodness that's motivated badly, that sin is not deep enough for the Father to come, to send the Son that we needed, to send Jesus to say, come. I will forgive you. Come in. Because we'll celebrate over a sheep and we'll celebrate over a coin. But sometimes we don't care enough to leave, to look for a lost brother and sister. And what he's telling us as believers today is to say, son, for me to hear, you're always with me and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate because this brother of yours is dead and is alive again. He's lost and he is found. Don't lose the passion that the elder brother lost. He lost the passion because he didn't consider his relationship with his father something to be valued. It was work, and it was not fun, and it was not he was not interacting with his father. He was just trying to please his dad to get the stuff. And it doesn't seem fair that the younger brother was welcomed back in. He lost compassion. I don't know if you noticed this. He said, by the way, did you know he partied with prostitutes? Do you see anywhere in the story where somebody told him that? His brother was in a far country. How did he know? He's either assuming it or he knew he didn't care to go rescue his brother and showed no compassion for him. I'm not sure which one that is, but both of them show a lack of compassion. And he lost perspective, this elder brother. He wanted the father's riches. Both of them wanted the father's riches, but they did not want the father. We are good at pointing out moral sin in this world, pointing our fingers. And Jesus doesn't back down on the fact that this was wrong behavior. So don't hear that from me. But both sons were outside of the father's house. One because he had chosen the bad things, and one that he had chosen to do the good things badly. Unrighteousness versus self-righteousness, all is unrighteousness. And that is where he was. And here's what's kind of awesome about what Jesus does with this story. You don't know if the brother went back in. You assume it, because it's supposed to be happy. But he doesn't say. It's like if you were watching Return of the Jedi and the Emperor goes, take this weapon and strike me down, and Luke's movie over. Or in Lord of the Rings, he's standing over the edge of the thing, he's got the ring, and Sam is like, don't, and he starts to slip it on his finger, movie over, credits. Like in the end of Endgame, and Cap is standing there, and the world is destroyed, and it's just Cap and his broken arm. He straps half a shield to brace his arm to stand against Thanos and all of his arm, and he's standing there. He takes a breath, movie over. Don't know what happens. Oh, it kills me. I want to know. I need to know about me. Am I becoming an elder brother? Do I grumble about their sin instead of grieving my own? Do I justify my own life by my own faithfulness and works? Do I look at the celebration of others in the Father's house and stand back with judgment instead of joining in? Do I desire reward and attention for what I do in my faithful walk and get angry when I don't seem to be recognized or get the goodies? Because of my faithfulness, do I expect God to do things that I want? When things don't go my way, do I start to question God's wisdom and His grace like this elder brother did? When we ask the question and we start to question God about wisdom and grace, do we start to doubt and get bitter? In our bitterness, would we rather just sit outside of the house of God, barely connected to God, barely connected to the Father and His house, and just saying, I've done enough. I haven't got what I want. Do I convince myself that I'm toiling away for Him, even though I'm doing the minimum? And I'm really not leaving my comfort zone to go reach out to someone else. The brother had plenty of opportunity to use some of his inheritance to go find and save his brother. But he didn't. Am I becoming an elder brother when I don't participate in anything that reaches out to the lost? Maybe I look at my calendar and it's so full of stuff that I have no time to bring glory to God, and I have no time to help someone who is hurting. Instead, I would just rather go, God helps those that help themselves, right? Do I get angry and stay at arm's length from anything the Father is doing? And if I've gone through and you've heard this list and you said, oh yeah, they need to hear that, instead of I need to hear that, you may be becoming an elder brother. The Father pleads with us as elder brothers to deepen our relationship with Him, to open the door to the lost, to celebrate, to give a chance, to give patience, to give understanding, to give grace. We need to repent of our elder brotherness, our religiosity that keeps us from loving someone who is hurting, to keep us from loving someone who is lost, to keep us from helping. Suddenly, out of the crowd, as I'm standing there sniffing in my 13-year-old, cool sniffles that I'm lost, a hand shoots out of the crowd and grabs mine and says, "Chris Giddens, you come here right now," and drags me off. It would have been great if it was my dad, right? That would have been the perfect story for this. And the Hallmark music would come up and da-da-da. No, it was my friend's aunt. She was looking. They were all looking. Miss Barbara Gunn, and she passed away last week, I just heard. She grabbed my arm, she dragged me back and was like, "Come on now, come on. And I'm like, "Okay." And so I sit down, and my friend, she was 4 years younger than me, and I was trying to be all macho, but I'm sitting there on the curb as everybody's kind of cooling down. I'm doing all this number, right? And she's like, "Why are you crying?" "I'm tired." That kind of thing. I'm giving that dude excuse. But I was found. There are a lot of people who need elder brothers to lay down what's holding them back and to go be the elder brother, the Jesus that they need. You can be lost outside, you can be lost inside, but Jesus came with grace for everyone. Let's pray. God, we are grateful to you for your love. Thankful to you for the grace that you give freely. We don't earn it, we don't deserve it. So help us who know it not to be so religious-y and so close-minded that we would just rather shove those who are lost away. Help us to be a part of your gospel of reconciliation, not approving of behaviors or approving of choices that go against your word, but being compassionate, knowing that our sin is just as great and your grace is greater. Thank you, Lord Jesus, you are the elder brother that we actually needed. You left glory for just even one of us. Lord, you love the value of your creation and you clean the house to find it. Help us to leave our comfort. Help us to look for needs and help us to share the gospel. Lord, this parable changed so many things. Lord, we learn that you are a loving Father. Lord, you love your creation passionately. And Lord, you don't want us to become cold. You don't want us to become judgmental. We hold to your truth with love. And we share your gospel of grace. God, help us today to serve you in a mighty way. Not to get the goodies, but to know you. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.